Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Wader. And we're back talking NBA playoff action. The first round officially wrapped up last night. And if you're anything like me, you hate that the second round also started before the
Yep.
first round was over. Look,
Boo.
even if you're just going to do them in the same day, can we do game seven before we do game one of the second round series? I don't understand what the rush is. The NBA basically has the market cornered on sporting events at this time of the year. It's regular season baseball, but that's nowhere near as big of a draw as postseason basketball, I'd say. And also not as available as regular season baseball is just impossible to be able to watch every regular season game you want to watch. NBA basketball's playoff basketball's on national television the whole time. So I don't get it from just about any standpoint. I don't know why they're trying to speed through this. Um, so I don't totally get it. But we've got our first round finally finished into our second round, and let's just start on the Western Conference. Start with our 1 versus 8 Thunder Grizzlies, and the Thunder get this one done in a sweep. And look, to me, it's no surprises. It's been up and down kind of with the Grizzlies all year. Um, they make the playoffs barely. But look, the Thunder are just too much for a team like the Grizzlies to handle. Now we'll see if some of that experience they got last year in the postseason helps them in their second round series. But as far as this was concerned, this was to me an easy pick for the Oklahoma City Thunder and one of the easier sweep picks if you had to make one.
Well, two things. Number one, don't forget about playoff hockey. Playoff hockey has ruled the last two nights. I don't
That's
even
true.
watch regular
That's
season
true.
hockey, and I found myself glued to the TV watching the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues in double overtime last night, and the Dallas Stars miracle comeback the night before. So it's up there with us. So,
That's
but,
true.
but as far as this series goes, I mean, game one was what everyone just knew it was over. I mean, if you watched any part of game one, you're just like, okay, so they're clearly better. Although there is the hypothetical going around. You're up by 29, I think, in the game three. John Morant gets injured. OKC comes back and wins. They win a close game four. It makes you wonder if Jaw doesn't get injured. Are we in a series where it would be potentially 2-2 and then maybe OKC closes it out? We'll never know, but the better team came out on top. That's the overall story here.
Yeah, agreed. And as we look at kind of what Memphis has got this offseason, you talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. with the extension looming. Now a Defensive Player of the Year, potential All NBA guy. We're talking about his value could skyrocket if he hits an All NBA team. And if so, you'd almost have to think maybe the Grizzlies start to tear it down a little bit and do maybe a soft rebuild. It's a big investment. I'm not saying Jaren Jackson is not worth it. Obviously, if he makes an All NBA team this offseason, he's definitely worth it. We've seen the Defensive Player of the Year. We've seen him grow. Really, he's been a great piece. But it's just a matter of keeping this team together. You've got John, the big extension. A big extension for Jaren Jackson starts to kind of pin you in a corner with what you're going to be able to do this offseason. So it is going to be a lot of decision making and a lot of thinking in the department for the Grizzlies about what they're going to do coming into next season. I mean, look, they already got ready for part of that with shipping off Marcus Smart. It wasn't necessarily a we don't need you. He really fits kind of that grit and grind mentality. But he's also on a huge, massive contract from his own Defensive Player of the Year award. So yeah, this is just a situation where this team has got to start thinking about the financials. It's not the young Jaren Jackson on the rookie deal and John Morant on the rookie deal and Desmond Bane on the rookie deal. These guys are getting out of their rookie deals and getting out of their rookie extensions and getting ready to make some real money. And so now big decisions have to be made in Memphis. It'll be interesting to see kind of where they go and what direction they kind of choose to go this offseason.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think mainly for, I mean, multiple reasons. Number one, I know this is an obvious question and it's something that probably won't happen, but I think it's a fair point. What is the future of this team with Jaw being the leader? And it's nothing against John Morant. It's a serious question. Do you scrap this team and try to build a team that plays to John Morant's strengths? Kind of like we've seen some teams in the NBA do in the past, build around your best player's strengths or their weaknesses. Dallas with Luka, they knew he wasn't the best defender. They built a defensive team around him that led to having success. So you find Jaw's weaknesses, find guys to do that, and do it at a cheaper rate. Because yeah, Jared Jackson, Desmond Bain. Desmond Bain's one that not many people talk about. I mean, he's a guy that's a solid guard play for them. And let's not forget, Zach Edey's on a rookie deal. You want to get some help with having a big center like that on a rookie deal. You need to kind of, like spread it out, spread the money
Yeah.
out, not go big time deal. So I'm interested to see what they do here. But let's remember, also brand new coaching. They made their interim coach the full time coach after the Taylor Jenkins scenario that ended the season. So I really don't know what to think for Memphis going into the offseason. It's going to be an interesting thing. But to me, I mean, if it's me, I'm looking at it as like, how do we make the best team that saves us money but keeps us competitive and plays to Jaw's strengths or weaknesses?
Agreed. Then we take a look at our 4 versus 5 matchup here in the West. That was the Nuggets versus the Clippers, and this was an all-time series. Unfortunately, we got this series in the first round. This with the way these two teams played, these are two teams that very well could have been playing in the conference finals or the NBA finals this year. Um, for the Nuggets, uh, it was interesting to see kind of them try to find their bearings after the sudden Mike Malone firing. A decision I'm not sure I still and
Me
I'm
either.
not going to say I'm not sure. I don't agree with.
I don't.
What's happening in the NBA right now, I do not understand. We're seeing coaches, especially this season, just gone for no reason. Absolute, and the team is worse for it. Now, sure, the Nuggets move on after the Mike Malone firing, but they had an abysmal finish to the regular season after the firing. They didn't start this series against the Clippers hot at all, but fortunately found their footing to get the job done. But it just blows my mind. You talk about Sacramento as well with the Mike Brown firing, Taylor Jenkins in Memphis. I understand maybe getting a little bit tired of being in that play-in over and over again, but there are teams that die to be in the play-in right now. And you're talking about a coach that gets this team fired up, understands his players. I just don't get the mentality in the NBA today. It's so, it's just, you don't care about what a guy's done his entire tenure as a head coach, especially in Denver and Mike Malone's case. You talk about what he inherited, and what he's been able to build, all the way to taking this team to an NBA Finals and winning a championship. And 2 years removed from that, he has you as a top 4 seed in the Western Conference, a great Western Conference, and he gets the hook for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you here on some of this. Mainly, well, Sacramento. I mean, they blew the team up beforehand, so Mike Brown's kind of an after effect. Where now they need a starting point guard whenever they had not one, not two, but three starting caliber point guards on the roster and trade them all away. Yeah, but I think the big thing to me with these firings, look, they were teams that were on cold stretches, which I get. I get if you're on a rough stretch, middle of the season, early in the season, fine. But tell me why you fire him 1 week before the NBA playoffs start. That I don't care how bad the coaching staff is. If you want to fire him after the playoffs are over, by all means, go ahead. That's your decision. I'm not saying I'll disagree with it, but it makes sense. Firing the coach a week before the playoffs is kind of like a hoorah, guys. Come on, we can turn this around. We can win some playoffs here. Load of bull crap. Load of bull crap. That's just not the way it's going to work in the NBA. But as far as this series go, yeah, it was a great series. If you're not a fan of the Clippers,
Yeah.
that made the series just a tad bit less fun.
Yeah. one last note on the Nuggets here before we start talking about the Clippers. With this series win, with the firing of Mike Malone coming into this last month of the season, the talk was starting to pick up. Jokic is going to be due for an extension soon. Jamal Murray is going to be due for an extension. Michael Porter Jr. And the conversation has started that, hey, a lot of this core is going to be due for new contracts soon. And more than likely, you're not going to be able to keep them all. Michael Porter addressed this in media, just talking about, trying to make the most of the time we have together as a core because, from a logic standpoint, everybody's probably not going to be able to return every single year, even the best players. And so it seemed like the vibe around the locker room, the vibe around this team was maybe there could be a change up in personnel sooner rather than later. And now we see with the firing of Mike Malone, a team that's not scared to kind of blow this thing up in the midst of, prime championship years for this core. Um, and so coming out of the series with a win, I think maybe as a Nuggets fan, this makes you breathe a sigh of relief and think, okay, maybe it won't be this offseason. But had this team come out and lost this series, I think we could be talking about a very real situation where the Denver Nuggets, as we know them, could be very different. Whether that's a Jamal Murray being shipped off, maybe even capitalizing on the value of Nikola Jokic. I mean, we're talking about a small market team in the NBA and the Denver Nuggets, homegrown talent in Jokic. Kind of a conversation we'll have with Milwaukee here in a minute. But talking about maybe looking to just cash in on a guy who's, maybe coming towards near the end of that prime, cash in on him now for another team who may be a big star team like an LA or a Golden State or a New York, who's willing to spend some assets to develop this team. So I'm not saying it will happen this offseason, especially after a first round series win for these Nuggets. But I think as a Nuggets fan and just as an NBA fan in general, this is a team to start to watch. Again, if we start to see this team off to a slow start again next year or in a skid around the trade deadline, maybe you see a Jamal Murray move or a Michael Porter Jr. move or Christian Braun or even Nikola Jokic potentially, depending on how worst case scenario it really is for them. But with the Clippers, this was a wonderful series. I'm going to say it. I understand they lost in seven, but this was a return to form for playoff Kawhi Leonard. The team played so well together. They're just right there. The big question is, what can they do this all season? Look, Kawhi doesn't have 10 years left. James Harden doesn't have 10 years left. I like the core that they have here. I think they're on the tip of the iceberg. Again, this is an unfortunate first round matchup because Denver is good. And look, a matchup with LA and with the Lakers, they probably could have won. A matchup with the Rockets, they could have won. They could have given the Warriors a fight. They could have given the Timberwolves a fight. And so to get the draw kind of the Denver Nuggets here was just unfortunate for them. But with a team that's so close, but running out of that championship window or really just a window at all with these star players, just time to play with these guys. What do the Clippers do this offseason to build this team, for next year? What do they look to, keep going and keep building around Harden and Kawhi Leonard and keep trying to make runs at the playoffs, or do they look to kind of tear this thing down?
Well, first I'll add on with the Nuggets here. Let's not forget, talking about the future, they fired the GM too because it was him and Michael Malone that were butting heads the whole time there. So not only are you going to have a question there, you're going to have a new GM coming in with a new philosophy.
Hmm.
So you wonder next year if they lose in the first round. I mean, what does that mean? I'll be dead honest with you. I will be very surprised if Jamal Murray is back in a Denver Nugget uniform next year because the only reason that I think he even stuck around at all was because of Mike Malone and him and Jamal Murray's relationship was like this. They were great friends. I don't see why they would try to keep him around. They could save money. Jamal's been dealing with injuries this year. Aaron Gordon's another one, but you got Christian Braun who's young. you have Jokic. Besides that, what do you have? Again, it's talking about building for the future here. Just in a little bit, saving your money, you spread the floor and get shooters around Jokic. That could help you out a bunch. And talking about pieces that could be traded off, let's not talk about just the big market team. Let's talk about teams that are on the rise. Orlando is a piece or two away from being a legit contender in the East. Detroit Pistons had a great turnaround year. They very much could be a contender during all this. Let's not forget Dallas is trying to somehow become a contender still. The Spurs have a ton of young talent that they could flip for it. I could go on and on about it, but talking about the Clippers, it sucks. It was a tough matchup. I knew going in it was probably going to go 6 or 7 games, but just simple things that they screwed up in the series. Austin, you know me good and dang well when it comes to my philosophy of basketball. What do I think is the number one key thing to winning games?
Rebounding.
You know me so well. You know me so well. Yes, rebounding cost the Clippers in this series. Game one, I literally wanted to throw my phone at the TV because they weren't rebounding. I think it was game five. No, game four, put back at the buzzer because someone wasn't boxing out Aaron Gordon. You make a phenomenal comeback in that game four, and you lose it on a buzzer beater because no one boxed out. When if that game goes to overtime, you got all the momentum. You potentially go up 3 games to 1. You
Yeah.
had the series in control, and yeah, it's disappointing. I really don't know what to expect with this team. There's a couple of pieces that could still be improved. Well, number one, I will say Ben Simmons, the midseason pickup for him, I really enjoyed seeing him play well. I hope he got to play more than he did. But, Kawhi's getting up there in age. And listen, they have to keep on contending for a bit because of the trade with OKC. They don't have control of their
Sure.
draft picks for a while. They have no choice but to keep on running this back and trying to constantly get into the playoffs. Now, as far as moves they could go, they brought Bogdan Bogdanovic over at the trade deadline. Didn't hate the move, get more offense for a defensive team. But no disrespect to Chris Dunn. None taking it all from him. I don't. I think we could do better than getting Chris Dunn some action. Same with Norman Powell. Norman Powell frustrated me the heck out of this series. He is way overpaid. I hope we move on from him in the offseason and save some money, especially if we're still going to try to contend. But Kawhi did his thing. James Harden did his thing until game 7 when, classic James Harden game 7 happens.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that they couldn't get the job done. But again, there's just a couple of pieces that they make the right moves this offseason. We'll be talking about him as a dark horse in the West again, like we have been every year since Kawhi Leonard's got there.
Yeah. Now let's talk about a couple series. We just talked about, the favorites, the top seeds winning, but let's talk about the two series in the West where the bottom seeds got the job done, the underdogs, if you will. And we'll start LA, the 3 seed, versus Minnesota, the 6 seed. And Minnesota gets this one done in 5 games. And Anthony Edwards is just a special talent. I think that's the big thing to take away from this series. Look, they've had some great playoff runs with this guy, but to come in as a 6 seed against this Lakers team that, look, it's had its ups and its downs this season, but you get Luka Doncic, and that's been pretty good for them. They've been on the rise, but they feel like a superpower right now with Luka and LeBron. And for him to come in and this team really to come in and push all that aside and get the job done, and then we talk about it, a Rudy Gobert redemption game in game 5, 27 and 24, if I'm correct. I love me some good Rudy Gobert. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that. So it's nice to see Patient Zero come out and show the world what he's capable of. I hate the Rudy Gobert slander. He's maybe the greatest defender in the modern NBA right now. He doesn't get any credit for what he's done. And to go out there 27, 24, dominate a LeBron and Luka led Lakers team with that kind of performance, you love to see it. But they just did the little things. That's what this team does so well. Kind of like we were talking about in the last series. The Timberwolves just do those little things so well. And Anthony Edwards, such a special talent. This was just a phenomenal performance for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, let me tell you where the Timberwolves won these series. Fourth quarter, game one, they outscored the Lakers 23-17 fourth quarter. Game two, even though they lost, outscored them by 7. Game three, outscored the Lakers by 10 in the fourth quarter. Game four, they outscored the Lakers by 13 in the fourth quarter. And then game five, they outscored them by 6. They won the fourth quarter. These were all competitive games down to the very end. Besides game two. Game two, the Lakers just got off to a really good start. That's just too much to overcome. But the rest of these games were close down to the wire in the fourth quarter, and Minnesota controlled the fourth quarter in these games. And you wonder if it's because of all the talk with the Lakers, which we'll talk more about in a sec, I'm sure, once we get done with Minnesota, about playing their starters too long. That's a whole question that everyone wants to know about. But Minnesota, Anthony Edwards, absolutely. I hear all the people, they're like, oh, I don't want to hear the Michael Jordan comparison with him. I'm not saying he's MJ. I'm not saying that. The mentality he has, though, late in these games, it feels like it, if you get what I mean by it. I mean, he's like, I'm taking over in the fourth quarter. There's not a dang thing you can do about it. I'm going to talk and let you know that I'm taking over in the fourth quarter. And I mean, you see in points in the fourth quarter of games in Minnesota, he's shoving LeBron saying, let's go. You think I'm going to back down from you? I'm not. But let's credit, like you said, Rudy Gobert, game five. Watching that full game five, he was amazing. He was amazing in that game. He was the reason they won that game five. Anthony Edwards was great, but Rudy getting 27 and 24 is why they won. Jaden McDaniels had some big shots. They have this core that they really seem to play well together and do really well together. I'm just looking forward to their second round. When we talk about that second round series, oh my gosh, that's going to be incredible. But they got the job done here because they won the fourth quarter of these games.
Yeah, that mentality you talked about with Anthony Edwards, it's incredible, and it may come off as arrogant, but it's the mentality you have to have as a superstar in the NBA. That mentality, and I love it when at the end of these games, he just has this. I'm the best player in the entire world, and there's the ball shouldn't be in anybody else's hands but mine. Nobody else should be making this play except me. And then to go on top of that with that mentality, he has the execution. He doesn't just take the big shot, he makes the big shot. When they need him, when they call his name, he answers. And that's the big thing for them. But with the Lakers, look, this was not the way you wanted this series to go, certainly. And like you talked about, maybe an overusage of the starters. Which game was it that the starters played the entire second half?
Game four, maybe
Game
game three
four,
or
yeah,
four.
something
One
like
of the
that.
games in Minnesota.
So yeah, it's certainly an interesting question about the overusage. But look, this team is basically built on its starting lineup. There's not a lot else in LA. Fortunately, the Lakers are going to have an offseason to try and find a deal for Dalton Connect. Look, that was a move that they tried to make this offseason, or at the trade deadline for Mark Williams. That deal ended up being vetoed and pulled back because of physicals and such. But now the Lakers will get a chance to shop still one of the better young talents in the NBA, and help develop this team a little bit more. So I think certainly it wasn't the ending to the season that they wanted, but you've got Luka, you've got LeBron, you've got some pieces that can be moved and help reshape this roster. I don't think the Lakers are going anywhere. And I think honestly, it's a bit of a lucky break for the rest of the NBA that LeBron and Luka didn't hit their stride this postseason.
Yeah, you all wondering why the Lakers set for the future. You can thank a certain guy in Dallas for it. But as far as it goes, look, the difference here again is what I talked about with Dallas. In Dallas, they had a lineup set around Luka that was full of elite defenders that would help him out. The Lakers don't have that right now on the roster. That might change this offseason. We'll wait and see. But you saw, I mean, if you watch this series, Luka just kept on getting exposed on the defensive end. It was so close. It's like, it makes you even more mad at the deal happening because it's like he had the perfect setup in Dallas, the perfect roster run that he just took to the finals. But again, the big thing, they got to find a big man. Luka, when they have a big man that he really likes, for example, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, that he works well with, that changes things offensively a whole lot for him. And you saw the Lakers had to go to small ball lineups really in that game because they didn't trust Jackson Hayes going going at him. And, it sucks for Jackson Hayes, but it's the nature of this lineup. And whenever that deal got voided at the trade deadline, everyone's like, this is going to come back and haunt them come playoff time. And sure enough, it really did. But the question I have, you brought it up. They don't have a lot of strength on the bench because LeBron and Anthony Davis were taking up most of that bench. Now it's LeBron and Luka doing that. To me, it's going to be hard to build a really great team around Luka until LeBron retires, and that money's out the door. You got one superstar contract, and then you can build the rest of the roster with it. It's going to be hard to do that until LeBron retires because LeBron's not an elite defender at this point in his career. He's not, and that's nothing against him. He's just not. But I get the questions about JJ Redick playing him in the fourth quarter, but given the roster that he inherited and the way the roster was set up based on the moves, I would have played him the fourth quarter too. But you gotta, if you're gonna play him the whole fourth quarter, your subbing in the first half has to be so critical and so specific to set up. If you want Luka to play the whole fourth quarter, he needs to play very few minute stretches of the first quarter, second quarter, maybe even the third quarter. They need more depth on that bench. And again, I just don't think they'll get that until they can free up a ton of cap space on this roster.
Yeah, agreed there. Final series in the Western Conference. We had the 2 seed Rockets take on the 7 seed Warriors. And look, this one got a little bit scary for Golden State. Look, they started out hot on a tear. The Jimmy Butler connection really working for this team. But then at games, 5 and 6, they dropped to Houston. And Houston forces this game back, forces game 7 back in Houston. But the Warriors were able to take control and really run this game. But this was a great series to see for Golden State that, hey, Curry's still an elite talent, but he can't do it all himself. And getting Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline ended up being the best move they could make. Look, Jimmy Butler proved it. He's not washed. Miami is just in a bad spot. He comes in big games, makes the big plays for Golden State, helps take some of that pressure off Stephen Curry, and helps move this team on to the next round. Look, it's scary to think about what this Golden State Warriors team could do this postseason. We're seeing it. This was the best case scenario in the eyes of the Warriors. Hey, we make a low risk, high reward move to get Jimmy Butler. Maybe he pushes us back into the playoffs, and maybe we can make a run. And now we're seeing that. He helped this team get into the play-in. He helped this team win in the play-in, and now they're moving on to the second round. Not to mention the championship pedigree of Steve Kerr, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, some of these guys who have been around for these runs in Golden State, now paired up with an elite level talent in Jimmy Butler. This team has all the makings of a team that can make a run. I would be worried if I was anybody. I know the Timberwolves are great. I know the Thunder are great. I know the Nuggets are great. But this team has the experience and the talent to make big things happen in the postseason.
That was my thinking with it was, I'm talking with my friend David, who's a massive Thunder fan. He was begging the whole play-in. He's like, Golden State, please win. I don't want to face you in round 1. I'd rather face Memphis. So that tells you the fear. Like, talent-wise, is this close to Golden State's teams in the past? No, not even close. And that's no disrespect to the lineup they have now.
Mm-hmm.
But they're such a veteran group. They know how to get it done in games late. And in a Western Conference right now, when you look at the teams left, the team with the most experience is the Denver Nuggets, a team that Golden State has done very well against in the postseason. The Thunder are super young. You don't know how that's going to go. The Timberwolves, a lot of energy defensively, but also a very young team still. So, credit to Golden State. Really, that game 7 was so physical. The defense was great. I'll credit Draymond Green with playing defense on Alperen Sengun, the center for the Rockets. He made him uncomfortable the whole series. And, it kind of made you look at it as like, was that really the Rockets' game plan? it was kind of questionable there. But not just Jimmy Butler. Let's not talk about Buddy Hield. Game 7, Buddy Hield looking like he was back at Oklahoma. Buddy Hield last night.
Yeah.
I think he had 9 3-pointers in that game last night. Other shooters stepping up on this roster. You know, we talked about losing Klay Thompson. You bring him, you bring in Buddy Hield, all these other guys around him. But the big thing, you mentioned it, I mentioned it whenever the trade deadline happened, having another elite scorer to go to late in games when the defense is so focused on Steph Curry, it made a difference. And it made a difference with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler won them game 1 in Houston. I want that to be known. Was he the leading scorer in many other games after that? No, but he was still very vital with clutch plays in the clutch in the fourth quarter there. I mean, this is a roster again. That Minnesota Golden State series is going to be a battle, but I guarantee you the Thunder and the Nuggets, whoever wins that series, are saying, let it be Minnesota. Let it be Minnesota. We do not want to face Stephen Curry on a red hot playoff run with elite help scoring late in the games.
Yeah, the thing you talk about Steph Curry, look, it's been kind of lost the last couple of years because the Warriors and the way the roster is constructed has kind of changed. But for most of Steph Curry's career, the thing that we talk about is how great of a mover he is off the ball. When he gets the ball out of his hands and he slips through the screens and finds himself wide open on the three-point line. They haven't had a lot of that the last couple of years. Klay Thompson, not really a facilitator in the offense. Draymond Green's kind of become a little bit untrustworthy outside the three-point line over the last couple of years with the ball in his hands. He can't facilitate as well. You didn't have Kevin Durant anymore. Andre Iguodala no more. So who was going to handle the ball for this team outside the perimeter? And now you get a guy like Jimmy Butler, comfortable with the ball in his hands, comfortable with calling the plays, running the offense. And that allows Steph Curry to once again slip and slide in the background behind screens and find himself wide open. And an elite level playmaker like Jimmy Butler can now run the offense and get the ball to an off ball Steph Curry. Yes, it's been working out perfectly for Golden State.
Yeah, it absolutely has. But here's my other thinking here too with it, Austin. The difference with this roster, you watched game 7 last night. Golden State's up the whole first half. Steph Curry had 3 points at halftime, and they had an 11-point lead going into half because other guys around them were stepping up, and that's what makes this roster so dangerous. Yeah, you can shut down Steph Curry. You still got to stop Jimmy Butler. And then you better pray and hope that Buddy Hield ain't red hot from 3, or Pochemski,
Yeah.
or Moses Moody, or Draymond's hit a couple of threes in these playoffs. You don't want him to knock down a couple too because he gains the momentum. So I'm telling you, it's a team that is playing its best right now, and it just sucks for Houston, you know, matchup wise. They're such a young team. It was just an unfortunate matchup for them.
Yeah, with Houston, we look at this offseason, and Ime Udoka talked about it. Look, you know, we got good pieces. We competed, but you know, maybe we need to look at kind of jump starting, making a move, and jumpstart this rebuild a little bit, put us ahead of the curve, by getting, you know, a bigger talent. And you know, we'll use these playoffs as kind of, you know, a measuring stick for our guys. A lot of our guys got a chance to play. We saw them shine under the bright lights, and that's going to help us make a decision on maybe who we move on from to kind of, you know, make a move if we decide. He wasn't saying, hey, you know, somebody had a bad playoff series, they're gone. We're going to bring in a superstar. But he's saying maybe that's the line of thought we need to have, you know, looking to jumpstart it, looking to get ahead, maybe add a star or a big time veteran, and kind of, you know, age up this team a little bit and jumpstart this rebuild. And look, that's where all these teams were. We had this conversation with the Thunder last offseason, and now they took a more minor approach to it because they saved all their draft assets, traded away Giddey, who was kind of battling for starting minutes that they really didn't have to offer, and they brought in a great defender in Alex Caruso, spending no draft picks to do it. So, you know, maybe not the biggest upgrade in Caruso, but still a veteran presence, great defender, certainly a help off the bench. Maybe the Rockets can make a move like that, but look, they have a lot of draft capital that they could expend. They've got a lot of young talent that they could expend. The thing I liked watching this series was Fred VanVleet stepping up. I know that there was a lot of big talk about Fred VanVleet getting a big contract, and it didn't make sense for Houston. And to me, I kind of thought the same thing. I like Fred VanVleet, but it was a weird contract to offer. They were still rebuilding, and they had a lot of holes to fill. Uh, was this the right move for him? Van Vliet brings that veteran mentality, and he brings championship experience. And now seeing him step up in the playoffs, I don't know if they're going to continue to keep Fran VanVleet around, but certainly he's proven to be a veteran force for this team. So the Rockets end in the offseason. It's another good season, disappointing end. But I'd be surprised if they don't swing a big trade this offseason.
I mean, it's kind of the telling point in the NBA. You have really good young teams. You still got to learn. OKC last year was the number one seed. Looked really good. Got beat by Dallas in the second round. You know, I think back even further than that. You think about, the 80s and 90s with the Bulls. They were a great young team, but you have to learn how to win in postseason. Fred VanVleet was awesome. Games 5 and 6, he was the reason this got to a game 7, was because of his shooting. I hope they keep him around, but you talked about they have so many assets on their bench, Austin, from all the moves they got. I mean, Jalen Green had one good game in this series. No disrespect to him at all. Not trying to be mean, but he's a young guy who didn't step up. Reed Shepard's still there. Don't forget Cam Whitmore they got in the draft. Honestly, both Thompson twins, Tari Eason. I mean, I could go on and on here. Shengun. There's a couple of young pieces where if you want to make the move for a big time player, such as someone they tried to get last offseason, Kevin Durant, it would make some sense for them to do. But I always say be cautious when making these moves. Make sure it's the right deal. Do not do it just because you can get a superstar on the roster, because we have seen it blow up in teams' faces so many times. Need I bring it up, New Brooklyn? Need I bring that up? What happened to you there?
Was
Who else? Give me some others. I'm trying to think of some others.
the first time Brooklyn did it when they made the trade with the
Yeah,
Sixers?
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, multiple times. Just don't be like Brooklyn. There's the right
Yeah,
moves to get stars in there to go all in. You just need to know it's the right ones. Jalen Brunson for the Knicks was a huge investment that I still want the Bull take to be known. We both thought it was an amazing investment to
yeah.
sign him from the Mavericks, even though it might have been tampering, but it was still a great move. So they have a ton of pieces that they can look to move on from and bring in. I don't know who they could bring in here, but the one thing I know, I am Udoka. Let's not forget how good of a coach he is
Yeah.
for the job he's done here. And let's not forget what he did in Boston before, that whole scenario kind of
Yeah.
happened there that we won't really talk about. So I'm interested to see what Houston does this offseason. Do they go flashy, or do they say, hey, maybe we make one or two minor moves like you brought up with the Thunder and try to rebuild this again? Because this Western Conference, the top teams, very young teams. You look at the top of the West, they're like, why don't we try running it back again and get more experience? So why not for Houston? I'm interested to see what they do.
Agreed. Now let's take it to the Eastern Conference where we talk about a historically violent beatdown in the postseason, and that was the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Miami Heat. 138 to 83, the final score in Game 4. But it goes beyond just Game 4. It goes throughout the entire series. This is the largest margin of victory in a playoff series ever. Um, they just beat the snot out of the Miami Heat. Um, and look, it's time to start bringing, the question, uh, is the Miami way, is the Heat way, Heat culture, does that hold up in the modern NBA? And it's a conversation we'll get into in just a minute, but for Cleveland, this is glorifying. After last year and a disappointing early exit in the postseason, now you come out, you're the 1 seed, you get a big time beatdown in the first series, and now you move on into the second round where you hope to make a splash. Look, the big thing with Cleveland is it's that undersized backcourt of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. You wonder, is it going to work? Is it going to work? But they come out and they have a great first round series. They play so well together. But what they lack in size in the backcourt, they make up for in size in the front court. My goodness. Do they have some big guys down low? So this is a phenomenal team, phenomenal effort. And their game one against the Indiana Pacers went down yesterday where Indiana prevailed.
Hmm.
We'll get into that a little bit more later, but the Cleveland Cavaliers are deadly. They've got a lot of weapons and a lot of ways to hurt you, and we saw that against Miami.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about this game four. I really don't know. If I'm a Miami Heat fan, I just, I told myself whenever sometimes I walk out of movies like that's $10 I'm not getting back.
Yeah.
And you walked out of that, you left in the first 5 minutes of that game going, wow, I really just spent $100 to watch a team fall behind 43-17 after the first quarter. I mean, it was rough. But for Cleveland, I mean, let's remember Darius Garland missed, I believe, games 3 and 4 with a toe injury and missed game one against the Pacers with that toe injury. So they were kicking their butt without him. And the big thing, you talk about, Evan Mobley, defense player, Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell. Let's not forget the deal they made at the trade deadline. Not a big deal, but a solid deal that fit their roster in DeAndre Hunter. What he's meant for them off the bench and even starting at points. He's a key piece for them, defense, shooting. He's been helpful as well. But I mean, it's a talented group, really talented. You think about Kenny Atkinson, and I remember whenever they made the hire in the offseason, my number brain kept on thinking like, well, he was with the Nets. Did he really do that good of a job with the roster here? Then you look at what he did this year in his first year on the job. It's like, maybe the Nets were just that bad with him. Do we not give him enough credit for that?
Yeah.
So it was good for the Cavs to handle the business. But yeah, for Miami, this is interesting because if you get swept and it's close games, it's a different story. But to get swept and the scores looking like they are, I mean, that's a concerning thing for them.
Yeah. It's just embarrassing, really. Having this team just be non-competitive in my eyes just didn't make any sense to me. Um, but to me, I think we're seeing kind of to me, the death of the NBA play-in.
Mm.
Now I know that the Grizzlies and I know that the Heat would have still made the playoffs based on their standings with no play-in. But I mean, that's just it to me. Miami still made the playoffs, still is the eight seed, and they still got throttled. Why do we need the Chicago Bulls, who finished 3 games under 500, and the Atlanta Hawks, who finished, actually, no, Miami would not have made the playoffs. I'm
No, they
sorry.
would have been the nine
Yeah, they
seed.
would have been the nine. Atlanta would have been the eight.
Yep.
So yes, why do we need a team that's this many games? I mean, are you kidding me right now? How poorly they finished the regular season. Um, sure they beat Atlanta, but to me, I just don't care. Give me the best 8 teams based on the regular season. I've hated the play-in since it happened. I know it gave the NBA good ratings after the first year, but it's because we actually got good matchups with teams that deserve to be in the playoffs. Grizzlies Warriors was a fantastic playing game for that first year. And that unfortunately gave us in the NBA false expectations for what was going to be these play-in games. But they haven't really been good games since, and it hasn't led to me to good first round matchups. Make the regular season count again, um, and have teams play till the very end of the regular season instead of having teams coast in after they make the play-in. Just
I mean, it
disappointing.
it adds some drama to the end of the regular season is what they were thinking, like with the
Yeah.
playing, when really the exact opposite happened. I mean, Dallas and Let's talk about. I'll take another point. Sacramento and Dallas in the West. That was a 9-10 matchup where, and that was just a matchup. Like we all were like, yeah, Memphis Golden State, that'll be awesome. Sacramento Dallas, who gives a crap? It just wasn't, and it wasn't even an entertaining game to go along with that. But no, you were absolutely right. Early in the playoff series, I mean, think about it. The very first one, Portland and Memphis in the bubble. I mean, they were like, "Oh, this is incredible. We got to do this." Now, if there is like, to me, it's hypothetical. Like, if it's so close between seeds 7 through 10, then it's a different story. I know it's a weird thing, and I doubt they would ever do it. But there should be like it should be like a rule, like if 7 to 10 are within 5 games of each other, or like 4-3 games of each other, then you do the play-in. If it's a massive difference between 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, no point to it. There's no point to it. It doesn't really make any sense, at least to me. So I'm with you on this, because it was sometimes I'm like, man, the play-in's going to be fun. I'm like, this just sucks. I mean, I'm watching two teams. No disrespect to the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat. No disrespect to them,
The
but two teams
Bulls are
I'm like,
bad.
they have no business being here. And it's nothing against your Bulls personally, but that was the thinking in that one, and Sacramento and Dallas.
No, you just shouldn't have two teams that are sub 40 wins, which isn't even 40 wins is not even 500.
Mm,
Sub 40 and playing for a spot in the playoffs.
mm-mm.
It's just stupid and it doesn't make any sense. And it leads to, I mean, an easy win for the Cavaliers. The most dominant playoff victory of all time. Uh, or playoff series margin of all time. But look, for Miami, the cracks are starting to show in Pat Riley's structure and the way he's built this team.
Whatever the heck you call heat culture, whatever the heck
Yeah.
you call it at this point.
I wonder if it's time to change directions a little bit, because clearly what they've got right now is not working. Davion Mitchell is probably the biggest win they can take away from this season, being able to get him and have him on the team. But even then, he'll be a free agent this offseason. So now you've got to fight to re-sign him. It'll be interesting to see kind of where this team ends up. But right now, it kind of feels like the Heat have hit a wall, and there's no way out.
And I really don't know what they do to fix this
Agree.
situation, other than maybe look to make the big moves. And it's nothing against it. For me, I've never been a big fan of Tyler Hero, and whenever he
Yeah.
became the leading man of the team, I had doubts for it. And I'm not saying that's what I think the main problem was. Trust me, there was more than just
Yeah.
Tyler Hero that was the issue there. Um, but no, I think there's a lot of question marks with him. I mean, let's give him credit. Khalil Ware, phenomenal pick, had a phenomenal rookie year. Arkansas player from the state of Arkansas, so that was good. But you look at it, you have a couple of young pieces. If you really want to keep this together, like keep Spolster around, get these young guys way more action playing in it. Bam Adebayo, I love Bam. He's a really fun piece. I think he's outgrew his time in Miami there. I think he needs to go somewhere else and be a big key piece for a team on a championship run. Uh, I mean, Andrew Wiggins as well. I mean, he was just a placeholder for that deal with the Jimmy Butler move that they made at the trade deadline, which you add that stuff into the fold, that kind of tells you the situation too. We don't even really think about that. We've just
Yeah.
worried about Miami post deadline. Uh, I really don't know what their plan is. Do they try to run it back with this roster? I don't know what they do, but to me, I'm with you. I think big changes need to be considered. They will not fire Eric Spoelstra, and I don't think I think he's earned. I think he's earned a few more years still to be the coach with
Agree.
the amount of titles
Agree.
and success he's won. But I think I always say for the NFL, Austin, the best culture changes come from the very top. From the very top is where the best culture changes happen. So I would say, have the talk with Pat Riley and just be like, listen, we want to go a different direction here, and just try to build a new culture here and kind of shake things up. Pat Riley, Hall of Fame coach, legendary coach, not trying to discredit him at all, but you outgrow your spot sometimes. That just happens. I could talk about NFL teams. I mean, the one I always bring up, Mike Zimmer with the Vikings. He was a great coach, was leading Minnesota consistently. He outgrew his time there in Minnesota, and they need a change. That's what I think needs to happen in Miami, making a change from the top.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm with you. I think if you want to do this right, look, the Jimmy Butler era cost you lots of draft picks. And it got you to two finals. We can't forget about that. But it cost you a lot of draft assets. It's time to ship off Bam, ship off Tyler Hero, ship off Andrew Wiggins, try and recoup some of those assets, and let some of these young guys who have shown flashes but have not had a lot of opportunities get out there and see what they're made of. And
I mean,
see,
Jaime Jaquez, let's remember him,
yeah,
Nikola Jovic. I mean, they have a lot of young pieces there.
yeah, it's time for a change to the Heat culture. But let's spin it down into Indianapolis Pacers, Bucks. This series, while some of the final scores in this series were close, wasn't particularly close when you look at the games. 4-1, Pacers win this series. And look, you can really see the foundation that this team laid out is working. The young guys are stepping up. Tyrese Halliburton has developed into the superstar that he was believed to be upon arrival. And it's really just been the side pieces for this team that have really helped out. They've just built a great roster. And now coming in and beating the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round is huge. Um, I like the way the Pacers look right now. And after that first round game one or second round game one victory over the Cavaliers, they've got some good momentum. And you talk about it, it's not just Tyrese Halliburton, but Aaron Nemhard in this game one against the Cavaliers, 23 points, team high. They're getting it done everywhere. That's the same in the Bucks series. And if they want to beat this high-powered Cleveland Cavaliers team, that's the way they're going to have to do it. Is everybody all hands on deck?
Speaking as the Pacer fan, I will start out with this sentence: Greek freak, Bucks look weak, series looks bleak, Pacers in five. As far as it goes there, but listen, no, the Pacers. I still remember texting you the day of the deadline where they shipped everything off with Sabonis, Victor Oladipo, and I remember me and you texting whenever the deal happened, Sabonis for Tyrese Halliburton. And me and you were looking at each other like, how in the world did they get Tyrese Halliburton out of this year? Are you kidding me? And see what he's turned into is awesome. But let's not forget something else. Aaron Neesmith, what he's done, people forget we got him in the Malcolm Brogdon deal from the Celtics. And there's the famous um, picture that was posted by Bleacher Report of what the Pacers got for Malcolm Brogdon, and it was a paperclip. Aaron Neesmith's a whole lot better than a paperclip, I think, there. But it was making the right moves. And Aaron Neesmith, Pascal Siakam was a very risky move for them that has worked out phenomenally. Andrew Nemhard, they signed him to a contract extension last year. I'm going to be dead honest with you. He's already gone over the value of that. It's such a good deal. He's not even making 20 million until 2 years from now. So they're set up well for the future. But not only that, you have Obi Toppin off the bench, Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker. I mean, need I say more? It's such a balanced team that can score in all kinds of ways. I mean, the amount of games where you see all five starters in double figures, they play so well together, and that's what makes it great. And speaking just for fans from the state of Indiana, that's like where basketball is. That is the spot for basketball. And there's nothing better than watching team basketball go out there and dominate teams, especially teams who were saying that they got lucky against the Bucks last year because Giannis was injured, this and that. If I was a really petty fan, I would. But all I'm saying is, Damian Lillard, I hope you play some more basketball, buddy, because that was brutal to watch in that game. But for the Pacers, they were great, and they showed it in Game One against Cleveland. I'm loving this team. I'm terrified of playing Boston again, but at the same time, I would love Boston again in the conference finals. But that was only Game One in Cleveland, who's the number one seed. So there's still a long way to go in that series. But the Pacers look like the best team in the NBA right now.
Yeah. With the Milwaukee Bucks, look, the question is begging to be asked. Does Giannis look for a way out, or does Milwaukee look for a way out? No draft capital. Damian Lillard probably going to miss all of next season with Achilles tear. Best case scenario, he'd be back for playoff time if this team's a playoff team next year. Brooke Lopez, contract expiring, and he had his first bad season maybe of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Age seems to be catching up with him. There's just not a lot of young talent on this team. There's not a lot of good veteran depth on this team. Really, everything's wrapped up in Giannis, Lillard, Kuzma, and Brook Lopez. Um, I think if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, it's time to start thinking about a reset. I would first, though, talk with Giannis. What does Giannis want to do? I think it's only right that you honor the wish of your long-term superstar who stuck around through a couple of extensions he did not have to sign to see this team through, help this team win its first championship in 40 years. Um, it's only right. Um, but I think the consensus is there. Look, we had the talk with Giannis a few years ago about he would have an interest in playing in a bigger market. And then this year he had the statement about wanting the European basketball stars to be able to play in the big markets, not just to be the faces of their small market teams, but the big market teams. Clearly, his mind has been on a move to the big market for a while. He's never really been set on. He loves Milwaukee, but he's never really been set on sticking around for his whole career. He wants to be where championships can be won, and I don't see a future for Milwaukee, barring a miracle, uh, where they're able to offload Kuzma and Lillard's contracts to make the team more competitive for next season. I think this is where the Bucks and Giannis part ways.
I really don't see how it doesn't happen again. To me, let's not just forget player wise, Doc Rivers as the coach. Do we even need to discuss how that's worked out in Milwaukee? Extended the GM who has really, I dare I say, made this team even worse. Um, it's tough and it's a shame. And you pointed out Giannis could have left at any point. And trust me, ESPN and a whole bunch of people wanted him to leave. No one wanted him to stay in Milwaukee at any point. He stayed, he committed, they won the NBA title, and his roster is just falling apart around him while he's still producing the big numbers. But like I said, you look at this roster, Kyle Kuzma was the big move. There was a game in this series that man had the same amount of points as me and you do in the NBA playoffs right now. If that is your third best star stepping up like that, and then you got Damian Lillard, who I hope is going to play more basketball, but I really don't know what the future is for him. Um, I don't see how they don't look at parting ways because you look at it. Let's not forget Bobby Portis in his 30s coming off a very serious suspension, and I love Bobby Portis, but he's coming off a very serious suspension. He's 30 plus years old. Who's the next best pieces? Gary Trent, Kevin Porter. Are you going to even come close to winning the East or even getting out of the first round with that? No, no chance. So
Even
I
if
think
they were, both those guys are free agents this offseason.
there's your point even more. So it could get even worse than what it was. Um, do I think they'll make the move for Giannis this offseason? If they were smart, they would. But I'm thinking they're going to be like, yo, Giannis, give us this offseason. We're going to make the big moves. We're going to rebuild this roster for you. We're going to commit. And if it doesn't work out next year, I would definitely could see Giannis saying, listen, I've loved my time here, but I need to move on. And that's the one thing I've respected about Giannis is he is straight up and honest about it. He doesn't try to hide the fact he's like, listen, I mean, I wouldn't mind playing in a bigger market. I'm happy here in Milwaukee, but it's always out there. Um, so we'll see what happens with that this offseason. But I mean, this roster is just not good to me. If they number one, in my opinion, they need to fire Doc Rivers. And it's nothing against Doc Rivers. We know he won a title and stuff, but they need to change there at the coach. And that whole fiasco that got him hired was just a disaster
Yeah.
as a whole. So,
Doc Rivers had a great career as an NBA coach. Had a
yeah.
great run as a Celtics head coach, won a title. Probably more famous for being the coach of the Lob City era Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
It's time. Let's hang it up, Doc.
You were going to be an ESPN announcer, and all of a sudden they pull you in. Just there, it needs to be a full reset in Milwaukee.
He,
Everything.
he's ruining a legacy of a great coach right now. Um, Yeah, it doesn't make any sense on the Doc Rivers front, but Giannis's value is at its highest that it's going to be in the next
Hmm.
4 years, however long this contract is, right now. If the Bucks are bad next year, even if you wait just till the trade deadline and you guys are bad, his value's gone down because you're desperate. You wait till next offseason, you might as well keep him and see how he plays with Damian Lillard coming back from an Achilles tear.
Yeah.
The values, and not to mention, he's in his early 30s now.
Hmm.
He's only getting older. The prime is slowly trickling away. And the biggest issue for Giannis is that right now, his game is going to struggle severely after his prime. It's based on his length and his athleticism right now. He's done a great job of developing a much better mid-range shot to help extend the longevity of his game. Um, but look, right now his game is based on being a threat, getting to the rim, being tough to guard. And when he hits his age 35 season, he's not going to be explosive as he is in his age 30 season. This is the best value he's got right now. You've got no draft assets. You've got no money. You've got no young talent.
Hmm. To me, the big thing though is, I mean, if you're going to do this, you got to do it right. You need to market this move and carefully do it. I thought Sacramento did a great job marketing the De'Aaron Fox move. They announced that a week or two before the trade deadline. You'll go into this offseason and you say, we're listening to offers for him, but you take the right offer. Because if you trade him this offseason and you wait for the right offer and you be patient with this process, you're going to get a good deal out of this. I don't know if you'll get, what the Rudy Gobert deal was for Utah and Minnesota. Danny Ainge isn't walking through that door.
Yeah.
I mean, still, I can't get over that deal. But you smart and you make the right moves, it would make sense. Now, again, do I think they'll do that? No. I honestly, genuinely think they're going to try to tell them, watch the moves we make this offseason. Dame will come back next year and we'll see. But I'm with you 100%. Now is the time to make the move. You just got embarrassed in the first round for the second straight year. You Things need to change. Things need to change there. So I'm 100% with you.
Yeah. A place that comes to mind right now, San Antonio. Tons of draft assets. They have their last 7 first-round picks on a roster. You think about guys like Blake Wesley, who have not played really any minutes for San Antonio. Um, could potentially be a huge trade to get a ton of young talent and draft assets to set you up for the future. But let's kick it to the next series. Knicks versus Pistons, and this was the best series in the Eastern Conference. Knicks got off to a hot start, but we saw a flash from this Pistons roster, even into Game 6, which they lost. Um, that I was just really inspired by. Game 5 and Game 6, fourth quarter Pistons. That team was good. The decision making, the comeback. They make the comeback and win in Game 5, and in Game 6, just 3 points shy of going to overtime. Great effort from this Detroit Pistons team, but from the Knicks, we saw it. Jalen Brunson is the man in New York. He hits the big shots. He takes the big opportunities. Cat's been an upgrade for this team. He's a huge asset to have, but do not be fooled. This is Jalen Brunson's team. This team is built for him to be successful, and he's done that. It was great to see pieces like Mikal Bridges thriving, but this team is Jalen Brunson's. And once again, the World Take can mark it on the board. We were right. We were right.
That is still, like, I tell people all the time, they're like, what's the proudest moment you have on anything? I was like, one of the proudest ones still was whenever the Jalen Brunson deal happened. I think me and you texted each other and go, that is an insanely good. Like, prior to even doing the show when we said it, we were like, that's an insane deal for the Knicks. That's a great value for them. Anyone who knows the game of basketball, anyone that watched Jalen Brunson play at Villanova, anyone that watched him in Dallas knew he was going to be a bona fide star when given the chance. And he got it. Has he used a little bit of flopping lately to help him out with that? Yes. But he learns ways to win games. I don't know what to say. That's how the veterans get it done there and superstars get it done. He's been great. The supporting piece has been great. You're right. Cat has been a big upgrade for them. People wondered about that move whenever it was made right before the start of the season. I think what that move was made a week before the regular season started, or like 2 weeks.
It was
I think
close.
it was something like that. So it's been a good move. And now, man, oh man, this series in round two with the team we're going to talk about in a second, this is the big series, I think, for the Knicks. For this current core that they have making the push, this is the series you need to show out and show how good this team can be and take it to the next level. People thought it was last year. Making that move for Cat. Now you're taking on the defending NBA champs. This is the time to prove it. You have a ton of depth, ton of pieces. Got to go out and you got to prove it now. Simple as that. Because if you win here against this team, though, as if the world wasn't already on notice about you, they will be on notice for you if you go out and take care of business here. But the Pistons, I mean, we'll talk. Obviously, we're about to talk about them. I'm just so proud of them. You had told me this team last year was going to make it to the first round and take the Knicks to 6 games. I've been like, cool. That's a cool 2K simulation you did there. What
Yeah.
moves did you make at the deadline? Just insanely proud of them.
Yeah, this was awesome. Honestly, this offseason, I don't know how many changes I'd look to make to this roster.
Mm-mm.
To talk about it, the young pieces are playing so well together. The step up of Asar Thompson. Both Thompson twins played phenomenal as defensive specialists in this postseason. Cannot wait to see those two grow in their own respective rights on their own respective teams. But Asar Thompson being that defensive stopper, I really loved. But the big thing I loved about this Pistons team was the veteran leadership. Dennis Schroeder, acquired at the deadline, kind of a whatever. It was an aftermath. The Pistons just jumped in to help broker this deal financially.
Mm-hmm.
Schroeder's contract needed to be thrown out after this Miami deal with Jimmy Butler. Schroeder's being thrown all around. And so they say, well, we'll take him. We have cap space. We'll take him. He ends up being a stud for them. Talk about Tobias Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a little bit more money than people thought, comes back to Detroit and plays like he played the first time he was in Detroit. He's been a great asset. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. And Malik Beasley, solid veteran presences, great shooters. This team really built a solid foundation. I'd want to run it back with this roster right now, and they're just a 6 seed. We'll see what they do this offseason, but I like where the Pistons are at, and I like what they've done for themselves. This could be a very, very fun team to watch carry that momentum into next season.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see them in a team we're going to talk about in a little bit too. But I mean, it's so great. And the big thing that this year did, having all those great pieces and getting the recognition, it gave Cade Cunningham the recognition he deserved for how good he's been for
Absolutely.
them. And he was incredible this year, given the pieces around him and guys stepping up. Now, let's be honest here. Is there a chance the production falls off next year with some of these guys that are veterans? There's a chance. But I'm with you. I mean, I'm so proud of them. And let's give JB Bickerstaff the absolutely incredible credit he deserves. Got fired by the Cavs, kind of, I think, was wrongly done there, even though it's worked out for Cleveland. Um, but comes into this situation and has done phenomenal. I don't know how else to say phenomenal job here with the Pistons. And not only that, you think of the big man, Jalen Duren. Let's not forget about what he's done as a nice big
Yeah.
man piece for them too. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the future is. I wonder what moves they would consider making to this roster, if anything. I really don't know what big moves they could do for the roster if they do them. But if they don't, I'm with you. Run it back. Let's see how it goes. And then if it's a struggle and we're into playing next year because the old production isn't there, then we can have a discussion about maybe changes for the future. But run it back.
Yeah, and then our final series in the East here in the first round, Celtics Magic. And this was pretty much all Celtics. The defending champs weren't going to go down so easily in the first round. We saw big production from a lot of their big pieces. Boston really dominated here to get themselves in the second round, where they'll be tested a little bit more by the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean Boston handled business, but I want to give Orlando credit because they fought hard in this series. Game three, they handled almost won game four, kind of blew at the end. Had leads and were competitive in games one and two. They were competitive in all the games except for game five. Game five was just a complete and utter annihilation from Boston, but they were competitive. And Orlando is so close there, and we'll talk more about them in a second. But giving Boston's credit, yeah, they went out and handled business. Even Jason Tatum missing the game with injury, they still went out and handled business. The core pieces they have, truly, it was brought up, Shams brought it up. They're going to have to make some moves to save some money this offseason. So this team that you just won the championship with, it's kind of a last push for them to see if they can do it again. So they went out and handled business kind of like we all expected them to.
Yeah, and really, you kind of talk about the last push. Really, that was kind of the mentality coming into this last year when they put all these pieces together. It was like, hey, we're starting to run out of money. We're kind of getting ourselves into a bit of a bind situation. We've got to make kind of this last-ditch effort at winning titles because otherwise we might have to have a very real conversation about what to do with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So yeah, they kind of were able to delay that, winning the championship. But yeah, you're right. It always helps push people's financial gains and what they want back a little bit when you win a title. So you win another title this year. Some guys who have extensions or, going to be free agents this offseason, they might say, hey, we just went back to back. I'll take a cheaper deal to try and get a three-peat.
Yeah.
But you go out in the second round, you go out in the conference finals, even in the finals, guys might say, hey, we had a good run. We won a championship last year. We didn't do that this year. I'm going to try and get what I'm worth. So championship is really the best way to talk somebody down on the money. But you're right. If this team doesn't win, we could be having a very real conversation about who comes back and who doesn't this offseason in Boston. Could be a last push here at another title.
Yeah, it really does. That includes pieces like Porzingis. He's been awesome piece for them, but eventually he's going to need more money.
Jrue
Derek
Holiday.
White. Let's not forget Derek White. I think
Yeah.
it's something to forget here. Jrue Holiday. Those are the main guys. Al Horford doesn't have a lot of game left in him. You're running out of the push here. So absolutely go out back to back. Even if you win back to back, it's going to be hard to bring back some of these guys. So might as well go with the last push there. And man, oh man, that series against the Knicks starting tonight, really starting about 3 hours from when we're recording this, that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, no kidding. It is going to be a blast. But real quick, we've held you long enough. We're going to run through the series real quick, give our predictions, starting with the Thunder and the Nuggets. Who you got winning this series and how many games?
So I could be completely bitter and just pick Thunder in 4. I'm not going to be bitter. I think this series, I'm going to give it to the Thunder in 6. I'm going to go Thunder in 6 here. The big thing to me is what will the big men do in this series guarding Jokic? How will Chet Holmgren do? How will Jalen Williams do guarding him? What's that going to be? The guard play, every other position, I think the Thunder have the advantage. But it depends on how they play Jokic defensively. That will be the decider in this series from going maybe 4 or 5 games to a 6, maybe 7-game series. But I'm going to take the Thunder in 6.
I also like the Thunder in 6. I am a little bit bitter that the Nuggets fired Mike Malone. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. And I think he was a great culture leader for this team. And I'm just not sure that I love the current look of the Nuggets coaching staff or front office after making decisions like that. So I think the Thunder are the better team. I think they learned from their experiences last season. They're going to come out and overcome and get the win in 6. Timberwolves, Warriors, who do you got?
I will just say it again really quick. This will be the best playoff series out of all in the second round. The intensity, the storylines in this series, and just the basketball in this series is going to be great. I really don't know what to expect in this series, shooting wise, from everyone, but it comes down to me, at least to the offensive end for Minnesota. How will they keep up with Golden State? The defense for Minnesota is going to keep them in every game. But I'm going to give an edge here. I'm going to take Minnesota to win in 7, just because I think home court might be the advantage in this series. But man, oh man, I'm going to watch every second of this series. It's going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, me too. I think here in this game 1, it's going to be a tough, close series. I ordinarily in a situation with this, I might go with the team with a little bit more experience, but I think the Timberwolves have learned lessons. They've developed as a team. I think they really found their groove in the last round. I like the Timberwolves in 6. to move on to the conference finals. Now let's talk about that first series in the East, 1-4. Cleveland Pacers. Can't pick a Cavs sweep since the Pacers have already got a game. I know you won't be doing that anyway, but who you got winning this series?
Um, Pacers sweep, obviously. No. It will be. I'm gonna go Pacers in six. I just think again the balance play, and also it comes down to how much longer Darius Garland's out. If Darius Garland doesn't play the next game, there's a real chance Pacers go back to Indiana up 2-0. So I'm gonna go Pacers in six as a safe pick, but rooting for the sweep. Rooting for the sweep.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go Pacers in 5 in this series. And my big thing is Tyrese Halliburton talked about it in his press conference after game 1. He said, "Look, we know that the fierce, number 1 seed Cavs, that team is going to show itself at some point in this series. So we've got to be ready for that." But like you said, if Darius Garland doesn't return soon, it could be a while before that number 1 seed Cavs, those monsters, show up. And to me, they don't have time to wait. So I think maybe they show up in game 3 or 4 after this team's down 2 or 3 games. But I think the Pacers are going to come out and they've done the right thing like they did in game 1. Punch them in the mouth early, get ahead in the series, and kind of stun the Cavaliers and take advantage of them while they're undermanned. So I like the Pacers in 5. And then final series, Knicks, Celtics, right to the Eastern Conference Finals. Who do you got?
It's such a well-balanced series. You look at the matchups everywhere are going to be great in every single position. It's so tough. And to me, I know it's a lame cop out. I don't care. In this kind of series, it comes down to home court. And I think that'll be the difference. I'm going to take Boston in 7, but uh, if it's 2-2 and the Knicks take game 5, I wouldn't be shocked if the Knicks won in 6. But if this goes 7 games, I would say Boston will be the one that wins it. It's just something about they're so well matched. The championship pedigree and just the confidence of the Celtics might be the thing that overtake them at the very end. But this is a series I fully expect to go to a game 7 in Boston.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the series is going to go to a game 7, but I like the New York Knicks to win this series. I think the big thing for me, I think getting Karl-Anthony Towns, I think he's better than Horford. I think he's better than Porzingis. Porzingis and Horford have had 2 really great seasons with Boston. I like Cat better in that matchup. Not to mention you've got Mitchell Robinson coming off the bench,
Yeah.
who I think is one of the premier down low defenders in the NBA. But he doesn't get enough talk because he really doesn't do anything outside of defend the rim, but he does that so well. When I look at the guys on the wings, this is where I really think the difference is. You've got OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Those 2 guys manning up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Look, you're not going to hold those guys to below 20 every night, if even a game in this series. But that's not what the best defenders in NBA do. Kawhi Leonard gets the best guy every night. Does he hold him below 20 every night? No, but he keeps him from making the big plays. He keeps him from getting a 30, 40 points, and he gets the momentum going for his team. That's where I think this team stands the difference. When this team wants to go isolation with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they've got the answers for that matchup. I like this defensive group from the New York Knicks to come out and surprise in a 7-game series and win it here.
I like it, but man, can I just say to add one point before we wrap this up?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember a more stacked second round in recent memory in the NBA. I'm having a hard time finding a better one than the second round that we're getting. Technically, it started yesterday, but really starting tonight.
Yeah, this is a good round 2 and a lot of talent on display.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it all. I mean, it's going to be some great basketball, and hopefully it'll be Pacers versus Thunder NBA championships. What I'm rooting for.
Yeah,
and the Pacers win in 6. Pacers in 6.
With all that being said, that's going to do it for us here at the Bold Take Podcast. Let us know down below, who do you think is going to win these series? What do you think of the first round? Who's going to win the championship? So much left to talk about in this NBA playoffs. We'll be there every step of the way with you. That's Austin Wader. I'm Austin Hill. We want to thank you for listening.